Hello and welcome. I'm Joan Perry, the Heroines Journey podcast. It's always such a delight for me to join with you in this podcast and for us to talk about the meaningful topics that women need to share amongst ourselves. There's so much wisdom, and yet culture has often told us to stand down and not talk about certain things. But you know what? Sex got better when we started talking about it. And I'm so excited today because I have Ilissa Panitz with me. She has an amazing program called the Divorce Hour. We're going to look to her for just the guidance. The first thing we want to tell you is that you are not alone. You are so not alone. And that's why we're doing these podcasts, why she's doing her podcast, so that we can come directly to you, with you, and talk about your concerns, talk about the things that women sometimes have difficulty talking about. But oh my gosh, welcome, Ilissa. And when I went through all this, I wanted you to talk to because I did feel like I was out in the wilds, like I didn't know what to do next, like the world was just going to collapse all around me. And you and I both know now that that's not true, that there is a way through. But let's start there and talk about why women feel so alone in this process. And then first tell us how you started the Divorce Hour and why you're passionate about this.
Yeah, and thank you again for having me because I just love the work you're doing. So it's such an honor to be here. But I've been a journalist my whole life, predominantly, pretty much, on the celebrity entertainment beat. Hobnobbing with, all the big movie stars, TV stars, models, athletes. That was my world. Still is. I mean, I still do it. But when I was going through my own divorce, I was just drowning in the process. I had no idea what it involved. I knew I was going to file for a divorce, and I did. But I mean, that was basically all that I knew. And everything was just, I was just failing at everything, wrong decisions, things like feeling like the rug is being pulled out of me, out from under me all the time.
Was up in the air, money, relationships, how.
Every everything, and you don't know where to go. So nowadays when we want information, we go to Google, but Google gave me a lot of pages of I don't know what, because you can't separate fact from fiction because everything looks great on screen. And then the pandemic happened, and I was still going through my divorce. And so while I was home trying to work, I went back into news because the entertainment world shut down. I was listening to Good Morning America in the background, and I heard, let's go to the transportation correspondent, let's go to the education correspondent, let's go to the political correspondent. And I was like, where's the divorce correspondent? I'm going through a divorce. I need help. And there wasn't one. And no matter what hour of the day I turned on the news, because when you're going through a divorce, your sleep is disrupted. So you're up a lot, watching a lot of late night TV. I couldn't find somebody. And I realized that the industry that I had been working in for well over 3 decades overlooked this one topic. And so I basically had nothing to do when my job went south. And so I started a column. And it was dealing with anything and everything about divorce. But I basically put it together, developed it, and created it doing what I've always done, interviews. So instead of interviewing celebrities, I was interviewing experts, professionals who worked in this space. I learned what a divorce coach was. I had no idea. I learned what a CDFA was, which is a certified divorce financial analyst. I had no clue what that was. And I'm like, wait, what? How did I not know all this when I was going through my own divorce? I was interviewing attorneys. I learned what a parent coordinator was, a guardian ad litem. I'm like, these were all things I just had no clue about. But what I would do is I would interview these professionals and kind of break it down the way I've always done as a journalist, very conversationally and easy to understand. And the column took off, and it got the attention of a radio network. And long story short, we turned the columns into a radio show that on July 31st, 2025, will celebrate its 4-year anniversary. Our show started as a Saturday show. We then went to Saturday, Sunday Now it's also available on every podcast platform you can think of. I think we're like at, I don't know, like 14. It sparked a television show called Ways Through Divorce on your home TV, where we've seen a record number of downloads. We did 10 episodes. But again, breaking it down in a way that everybody can understand the many things that are happening, because a divorce goes like, this. It's like all over the place. It's not a straight line. And I
What's the
think that's what people are confused
what's
about.
the biggest message that in your heart you wanted to deliver to women with all this media, exposure that you've had?
I think the number one message is it's temporary. This will pass.
All right.
Not right now. You've
Not
got
right
to
now.
deal with it.
Not fast
But
enough.
but it will pass. And like I've said earlier at the top of our conversation, I've interviewed, I don't even know how many thousands of people over the course of my career. But out of all the interviews I've ever done, one always stuck out with me. And that was interviewing my childhood idol, Marie Osmond, who herself went through 2 divorces and a lot of other heartache. And when I asked her how she always still finds her smile and she's still a beam of sunshine, given all that she's been through, she's like, Alyssa, sometimes life's not meant to be fair, but it's what you do with it that makes you who you are. And those words never have left me. And I always say that became my motto. Like, I know who I am. I'm a New Yorker. I'm tough. I'm a New Yorker. Nobody takes me down. And if you do, I will get right back up. Now it's, what do I do with my story? And I kind of merged it with what I did for a living. And I just share all this great information, some of which you have given us, and with people. And it's there for the taking.
When I went through it, I labeled it the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. But a big message for women too, and I'm hearing you say this, is that when I can have perspective a couple years out and look back, I was like, thank goodness, because it freed me to the next steps that I was going to take in my own life. I was becoming, I was not broken. I
Right.
was becoming. And that catalyst was sometimes you have to just get knocked to your feet, and your illusions and your visions and your judgments have to get dispelled so that you can like get out of that shell that you were in. I like to say it's a box and the directions of the box are on the outside because
it's interesting that you say about the getting knocked down. I was just doing because I help a lot of people through their divorces. They kind of hire me as a consultant. And I was talking to somebody yesterday and they said, I just feel like I'm always getting knocked down. And I said, okay, so let's just take a time out and think about, why are you getting knocked down? And you know what? Before you get back up, stay down on the ground for a minute or two. I'm like, get your composure, clear your head for the moment, because if you get up too fast, what's going to happen? You're going to wobble and then you're probably going to fall back down, and maybe like this time even harder. Stay down on the ground if you have to, just for a minute, just to get your bearings. And then when you're ready, slowly get up. I said, you will begin to gain your strength, you'll gain your composure, and you'll continue to move forward, because that's the whole goal. You said something earlier about when the whole world falls apart. And there was a really famous quote that I saw once, and it had to do with, just when you think everything's falling apart and the pieces are all around you, do not go pick them up. And the reason is because under that is this wonderful new foundation that's starting to blossom, and that's going to be the new you. So yeah, my whole world basically imploded when I filed for divorce, and my entire life changed. It was like I couldn't even control it. And I had to still function at work. I was running a celebrity magazine, and I still had to be mom. I had to go through this horrific divorce kind of thing, and I had to keep it all together. And so instead of scrambling to try to pick up all those pieces, I let the new me emerge. And what I discovered when that happened was I kind of liked the new me a lot better.
Don't you much better.
I became smarter. I knew what boundaries were. I learned about tolerance. I learned about acceptance.
And
And
when you
it
look
was,
back now, you wouldn't change a thing
no,
because you like the person. I love this quote from Marilyn Monroe. Everything happens for a reason. Sometimes
yeah,
good things fall apart, so better things can come together. It hangs right
so
next
true.
computer because just what you're saying, I wanted to daily remind myself of because better things were that new me emerging. And it's hard to see it in the time, but you have gone on to your true calling and not stayed in the box that you were in. And you probably couldn't do what you're doing today if you were still back in that box.
No, and and you have to take that as a positive lesson to teach your children. And I always tell my kids, it's okay to be sad, it's okay to cry, and it's okay to give yourself time to mourn whatever it is that's upsetting you. But you can't wallow in it for so long. So my mom has this motto, 24 hours to mourn and then 2 feet on the ground and how you gonna go, kick some butt
Yeah,
and take charge of your life. And okay, you may need a little bit more than 24 hours, but but the point is give yourself a window and a time frame, because the longer that you spend wallowing it, crying in it, the more life's going to pass you by. And every day, everybody's been given an opportunity. And sometimes you're given many opportunities and you don't want them to pass you by. And so for my children, I hope that it taught them about what it means to be strong, what it means to be resilient, and what it means to be determined. And every day when my kids go to school, I make these little notes for them and I use all these markers and I find positive affirmations. And then I draw little pictures around it.
nice.
And I do that because I try to teach them, like, life's not going to go your way every day. Some days you just can't get it right. Some days you feel like everybody's against you. Some days it's a great day and you feel like, oh my God, look at this. The sun is shining. I'm bouncing all over the place. But you have to really embrace those times and always remember that no matter how tough it is, somebody has it a lot harder. And you can get through this if you stay focused on saying, you know what, I'm going to just keep plowing. I'm going to keep moving forward because you know what, I'm bigger than what this is.
Mhm.
And I know that at the end of the day, I want to smile and feel good. And when you can get through it, you feel so proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And it just
Alyssa, how do you do this when you're right at that point where you feel so alone? Like
so
you feel like,
divorce is very isolating. I mean, my divorce has been final for what, like 5 years, almost 6 years. I still feel isolated
mhm,
through the whole process. But I think the one thing I learned, and it's something that I really highly encourage people to do, is first be comfortable within yourself and date yourself
yeah,
and figure out
because
who you
I
are.
was gonna say when you were saying that part about take time to stay down, also take a bubble bath.
Yeah.
Do something to nurture your soul so that you know that you're a human, lovely, caring, whatever you call yourself, but that you have this humanity within yourself that wants to live. Because
Yes. So
remember
true.
it at that moment, before you can pick yourself up. It's really a time to nurture yourself.
You have to, especially when you may have minor children at home who are depending on you. You're the foundation.
Mm.
And so it's okay if you have to lay down a new foundation. Uh, that's okay. People, I mean, look at homes. People tear down homes all the time and then they rebuild because they want something very different. And different sometimes is really, really good. And I think I've become a much different person for my children because they've seen all that I've had to go through.
Uh-huh.
And my focus was always for the benefit of them, but also for the benefit of myself. Because, listen, they'll grow up, they'll go get their own lives one day, and I still have to live within me. And I
Can
like
you
the person that I become.
can you tell us a little bit about the stages of your struggle? I mean, there's that first shock, where you're just, I don't know if this happened to you, but it did to me. I didn't see it coming. I thought, what a wonderful life. We were like the primo couple, had the life of, just everything. Like,
Hmm.
why would somebody want to get divorced? I just didn't get it. But yet, all of a sudden, in an instant, my vision was shattered. Like everything that I thought was going to be for my future, what it was going to look like, even where I was going to live and how my social life, I was all shattered in an instant. And I felt so shocked and so dismayed and quite honestly, really, really fearful, which was something I had to deal with right away because my fear was, keeping me down on the ground. So, can you talk a little bit about some of the stages you went through and maybe how you went from one stage to the next?
Yeah, it's a great question. Fear definitely held me back for the longest time for filing for divorce because I walked around, I was living in this beautiful 5,000 square foot home. We had all the toys and the bells and the whistles, and my kids were much younger. And I knew what I had to do, but it was a question of how I was going to find the strength to do it. And in a way, it was kind of done for me. What I will say is, it was a phone call nobody wants to receive, and I
Uh,
was on the receiving end of. And
wow.
then I knew.
Is that how you heard about it?
That's how I always say. I kind of sort of knew what was going on, but I didn't really want to know what was going on because, like you said, I had this amazing life, and on social media or on paper, everybody would have wanted my life. I mean, we were just living the dream,
Yeah.
but we really weren't. And so my gut was
And I just
always
want to
kind of
want to
gnawing at
pause.
me.
I want to pause you right there because that is a significant moment in the heroine's journey. It all looks really, really good on the outside. You've designed it for security and safety, and to think that, you have everybody else think you have the wonderful life, but there's this inkling inside of you, and you don't want to acknowledge or know that inkling because it could mean lots of other big things that could, just blow up. But it's so important that you said that and that you did know truth was in you.
You do, you have to listen to that voice. I think one of the biggest things that holds people back from filing for divorce and then going out to find their happiness is exactly what you said before, is fear. And a lot of people fear the unknown. Who doesn't?
Who
But
doesn't?
every day is the unknown, and that's what I find sort of comical in a way, because I always try to find the laughter in every situation. We wake up every day and nobody knows from one day to the next what's going to be.
Uh-huh.
We can't predict the future, but to stay in a marriage, to stay in a home, to stay in an environment that doesn't bring you happiness and joy, life's not a dress rehearsal. You're not getting a do-over. So yeah, things may have to change. You may not be in your big home anymore. You may have to scale down and live a little bit differently. You may not be able to drive the same cars or go to the country clubs anymore, or shop the way that you used to, or take the vacations that you used to. But if you can come home every day and find peace and tranquility and happiness and joy, honestly, that's like winning the lottery.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, after I got over my fear, I just knew I had to go right into survival mode. I had
How
two children who were depending on me.
did you
And
get
so,
did you get
you
over
know,
your fear?
I'm sorry,
How did you get over your fear?
because I had to go right into survival mode. There wasn't, after, I think, after what had happened, I just knew there was no going back.
Uh-huh.
And listen, I'm a New Yorker. Okay, we're all about survival of the fittest here.
Mhm.
So there was no turning back, and there were no other options. It
Uh-huh.
was just no matter what came at me, and I had everything thrown at me. Even though my divorce took about 2.5 years. My former spouse kept me in court for 7 years. Um,
Me too.
and so, regardless of everything that had happened, watching my entire life blow up, everything I ever worked for disappeared. I just knew that regardless of anything, I just had to keep going because I had to survive, especially for the sake of my children. And I knew that my kids were really solely dependent on me. So there
Uh-huh.
were no other options for me.
Yeah.
And in New York, I started in news. I only worked in news for a couple years before I got moved in entertainment. But we were on these live shots, like at 11 o'clock at night for the 11 o'clock news in areas I wouldn't send my worst enemy. And I remember people would be like, "Weren't you scared?" I'm like, "I'm from New York." I'm like, "Please, we have a saying, don't mess with me." I'm like,
Mhm.
and that's how I had to treat this. Like,
Yeah.
whatever you come at
Don't mess
me,
with me.
don't mess with me because I'm going to keep getting back up
Yeah.
and I'm going to keep going. And I will say this, everything that kept coming at me, the one thing that I did tell my former spouse is, you can keep coming at me as much as you want, but remember Rocky Balboa, he kept getting up and he became a champion because he never gave up. I said it was eye of the tiger. He was focused on winning. I am focused on surviving. So you keep coming, but I will keep getting back up. And in
Uh-huh.
the end, I was the one who prevailed. And
Uh-huh.
by prevail, I mean that I found a path that made me happy. I got my kids, and I found all these new things, like a new career and new friends and a whole new life. So for
Uh-huh.
me, that's the definition of winning.
Of prevail.
And
So
I had a
what
wonderful family. I had some great friends,
so
and it
what
was
were
great.
the first two, three, four things you did to survive?
I think number one is I always kept working
Uh-huh.
because work gave my head a rest from all the chaos. So that was really important for me to always keep working. Two, I joined this like bootleg kind of exercise group, and it was my saving grace. And it was like 50 minutes that you'd go in there and they go kick some butt there, and working out all that stress because you do everything from the treadmill to weights to like boxing, you're doing all this different kind of stuff. It not only took up my aggression, but it made me feel really good about myself, especially I
Uh-huh.
was liking the way that I looked, how the it like really shaped me. I saw a therapist, and that was vital.
Uh-huh.
I also wasn't afraid to ask people to connect me to other people, whether that was male or female, for friendship. I
Uh-huh.
needed to meet other people that would understand what I was going through, that could understand all the things that I was feeling, because my married friends, they were wonderful and supportive, but they couldn't get it.
Right.
So I wasn't afraid to speak up, and I also wasn't afraid at times to let my kids see that at times I could be a little vulnerable, because I
Mhm.
need them to understand that even though, yeah, I'm super mom and I'm super strong, I'm also human.
Yeah, you're
And
human.
I think it's very important to teach children that,
Uh-huh.
especially because when they saw that I became very resilient, I need them to know that no matter how bad things are, you can overcome it. And I think that's an important lesson for kids to learn. My kids will say, "Well, did anything come positive out of everything?" And I said, "Yes, the two of you." And at times, you know what? Things were good.
Yeah.
Somebody once asked me what I did with my wedding album. I said I
Uh-huh.
kept it. They
Yeah.
said, "Why?" I go, "Because that's an important lesson for my kids to learn one day, that you know what? There was a
Was a
period
good time. Yeah.
where their parents
Uh-huh.
were very much in love, that they were made with a lot of love, and that there were a lot of good times. And I think that they have to remember that. I want them to grow up and find healthy relationships, and get married, and become mothers. And I need them to know that even though things did not turn out the way I wanted them, or what I thought the fairy tale told me was supposed to happen,
Mhm.
there was a period where it was beautiful.
Mhm.
And that's what I need them to remember. And those pictures
Mhm.
are very telling. 'Cause
And the thing of it is that to support your own well-being and
Mhm.
humanity, you want to tell yourself that stuff
You have to
because
tell yourself that stuff.
you want to
That's a good,
you want
great
to
line.
populate your mind with beautiful things at this time. One of the things, I went to a therapist too, and she told me to go home and put memorabilia all around me of the good things that had happened. So one thing I did is I went down into my basement and I got my first book out and I put it all over my house because it just reminded me of my accomplishment, of
That's
my
great.
capability. You said something that's really important, and that's that you managed your fear and you managed your lack of mobility to the point that your self-worth rose, and certainly the working out helped that, because this is the point I'm getting to. You are apparently a woman who then could see options. Because when you're in the thick of it, it's so dark, it's so depressing,
Yeah.
it's so like there's not a light at the end of the tunnel. The one problem is you don't see any options. So, can you talk about that for a minute, about how you, because you're talking about the transitions you made, but the first step was to see those as options.
It's very hard to see that there are options in front of you because divorce is so emotional and it really is very overpowering. And you need to kind of work through all that and get your mind into a much better place where you can sort of like clear the fog. It's kind of like you
Mhm.
have brain fog a lot.
You have a
And
lot
then
of
as
brain fog.
Right, but as the fog starts to lift, you can start seeing things a lot more clearly. And if you are really that determined to have, I know a lot of people use the words great next chapter, whatever you want to call it.
Uh-huh.
I always tell people, and somebody told me to do this, and it's a really, really great lesson. And that was to take a sheet of paper, blank sheet of paper, grab some crayons, markers, whatever you want that's nearby, and start drawing out what you want the next phase of your life to look like. Could have friends, it could be a new partner, it could be I want to take a trip, I want to write a book, I want to, go for that promotion at work. I want to learn a new craft, whatever it is, just write all these things down or draw them or whatever, and keep that as kind of like, your focal point, and every day look at it.
Uh-huh.
And I know it sounds like, crazy, but it's actually very effective.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to accomplish these all in a week or a month. It may take a year or two, but and check things off maybe as you're doing them, but always know that you're always working towards a new goal. And
Yeah.
it's great to work towards new goals all the time. And you should always have new goals.
Mhm.
And I think now when you've gone through the divorce, your time becomes a lot different. So on our show, we once did a segment that actually got a lot of attention, and it was what to do with the void, because there is going to be this big void after a divorce. So I'll use a woman for example, like myself. When the kids would go and maybe see the other parent, all of a sudden I had all this free time. I wasn't racing a soccer and racing a dance with book bags everywhere and racing to birthday parties and this. It was somebody else's turn. And now I've got all this time. It's like, oh, what do I do with myself?
Uh-huh.
And, and even at night too, it's like, all right, like, who do I go to dinner with? Who
Mhm.
do I go to? And I started like figuring out what to do with the time. And I started investing in myself. So I would take myself for a manicure. I told you about that exercise class. I'd go walking. I would reconnect with friends. I started meeting new people who also went through divorces and seeing if we can get on the same, like, schedule with our kids so we can go for walks, we can meet for a lunch, grab a movie. And, slowly but surely, pieces started like falling into place with the new me. And all of a sudden, I started developing this whole new life.
Mhm.
And, but it takes time. It definitely takes time. I also took moments where I was just by myself and I would be home giving myself a date night. And that can mean I binge watched something, I made myself some dinner, I did a project around the house, but time to kind of really reflect within myself. What am
Mhm.
I looking for this time around? What
Mhm.
do I need to make me happy? What won't I tolerate that I put up with, this time around as I begin to move, forward? And you learn so much about yourself. And I think that's really important. And I think sometimes when you start building back better, because you will build back better, um, again, I'm going to go back to something I've said before. There's a great lesson that can be learned from all this. And people will not only see you as a role model, but your children will too. And that's
Mhm.
pretty important. And so, use your time wisely, and don't look at it as a negative. Look at it more as a positive. I know when we all get married, nobody's thinking of divorce. It's
No,
not even in our lexicon. I never
no,
wanted it,
me either.
but things happen, and you
And you
can't.
can't control the other party. What big
No,
thing that I learned is I was only 50% of the contract. And
right.
while I was there to stay and while I thought I was doing my job completely and where I was showing up, somebody else made another decision. And I liked it when you said there was no going back because it
Yeah.
took me a long time to realize I was not 100% of this. I was not in control. I could not fashion everything the way I wanted it, the way I always done it in my life, because
Hmm.
I was, a massive creator and my vision ruled, but I had to come to the acceptance that I was only 50% and that someone else was making a decision that was majorly impacting my life. And I had to, oh, this is so hard to say. I had to swallow it, accept it, be with it, let it hurt inside of me like it did, like it was an explosion going off inside of me. And then from that new vantage point, move on in a way that I could reconstruct my own life. And two things you're saying, and have faith that I was going to become a better person out of it,
Hmm.
see options that I could choose going forward, and I'm going to add a third one to that because I think you said it. What sustained me was recreating my vision. And for
Hmm.
me, this is so funny. I'll tell you this quickly. I spent my career on Wall Street. That was not where I was supposed to be. Where I am today, helping women, the heroine's journey, the path of moving forward, I knew that I just got a message from God that said that is the work you're supposed to be doing. And in all the tough times, I kept holding on to those coattails. Like, there is more for me in this. I'm supposed to blossom into a better person and be the person that can actually deliver this bigger message. Because, you fall apart, but you're not permanently broken. You're just becoming.
Listen, we all have scars. We could have scars from when we fell down as a kid, on the blacktop, maybe when we were outside for recess. We could have a scar from a surgery we had, and yes, we also have scars from life-changing events that have happened and maybe altered our life. But you have to kind of take everything and you have to find the positive, and you also have to find the humor. And that was a whole thing that I was just discussing, as a matter of fact, in therapy, where I was asked about certain things that have really happened and why I'm laughing about them now. And I say, because if you don't find the humor and stuff, you will crack up. And life is so stressful, it's difficult. I honestly think, without trying to sound sexist, because I'm not, I think it's a lot harder for women than it is for men. I think there's a lot more demands, expectations from us. And if you think about all the pressures that people are under today, and you're going through a divorce and trying to raise children and trying to make money and deal with all the crazy that's going on that we see every day in the news, you have to find you have to find the humor in all these different things that have happened. And I know it's hard and it may take you a little time to get there because you may not see it right away. But if you can do that, you can heal a lot better and a lot faster. And maybe those scars will not be as visible as they once were. And
Uh,
you want to go on and have a good life. You want to go on and be able to accomplish the things that are on your to-do list. And if one of them is to get into another relationship and you want it to be maybe healthier than where you were before, you have to make peace with your past.
mhm,
And that is, I think, a lot of people's biggest downfall is they don't make peace with what happened and say, look,
mhm.
it is what it is. I like you said, I could not change it because I was not 100% of this. I was 50% of it, because there's two people in a relationship. But here's what I can do now with
Mhm.
what I know, with what I want, and with where I want to go.
And
And
the heroine's journey is all about making peace with your past, determining what to do next, and having hope for your future.
you have to have hope. And I think it's very important to hold out for that. Listen, we all hope our kids are healthy and they succeed and they have wonderful, beautiful, loving relationships. We hope our loved ones, we want the same
Mhm.
things for them. We want it for ourselves. And I think that's a great thing. And we all need things to look forward to. And so, yeah, and it kind of gives us something to work towards. It goes back to those
Mhm.
goals. How you have to have those goals all the time. And
Right.
like I
But
said earlier, a divorce is not something people necessarily ever think they're going to go through, but sometimes life changes and circumstances happen. The goal that you should be thinking is, how can I get through this as easy as possible without this dragging on? And then going out to find what it is, maybe as you said earlier, you're destined to do.
Mhm.
Somebody once asked me, what does a divorce stand for? And I said, well, let's go for the D, because that's what a divorce, starts with a D. And I said, let's go with do-over. I mean, how many times did we want to do over? Like, yeah, we got it in elementary school. If you were at gym and, you missed the baseball and the gym teacher's like, it's okay, go get
Do
a
it.
do over. Well, you know what? You get this now. Now you get another chance at finding the things that you want that maybe you didn't get the first time around. And
And
again,
and
it
this
may
is
not
what I
happen tomorrow, but
and
you
this
have to let it grow.
and this is what I hear you saying, because this is part of the process. I'm going to use an analogy. When I chose men earlier in my life, I chose the beautiful, looking good, sexy, all the outward appearances. What I realized when I got divorced was that that was not a good basis for making a marriage decision. And I created a new understanding for myself that what's more important is what's within, kind hearted, generous, being there for you. So the refinement that you go through to determine what you want. And it's all a part of owning your own life. Because up until I got divorced, I would tell you I didn't really own my own life. But once you're in that process, it's kind of like, here it is, honey. And now you get to decide what is it
Yeah.
that what you truly want. It forces you to ask the bigger questions. Who am I? What am I here to do? And that's what I'm hearing you say. That
It
in
also forces you to go and get what you want, because we all get sometimes very complacent in our lives and then we get tired because we're juggling so much. So it really kind of forces you now to kind of take charge,
uh-huh,
especially when you have that big void that I had mentioned earlier. It forces you to get out there, to get involved, to use your voice. And by that I mean, um, it's like, who do you know? Not necessarily to jump right into a relationship, but people to hang out with. Maybe you like to run or bike or play tennis or pickleball. Do you know of a group I can join? Do you know places that, look for somebody like me that can like get into a game and pick up a game, and then you start meeting people and you start expanding your circle. Don't be afraid. I tell people to be vocal, like, listen, this was a lot of fun. Why don't we all do this again? Or listen, if you need a fourth, here's my number, and I would love to get yours because I would love to stay in contact to see if maybe I can jump in. There's so many ways that people can start building their lives, and it kind of forces you. I don't know if the word aggressive, but you do have to take charge.
uh-huh.
And when you do, you start seeing results a lot more. It's a great time to reconnect with people. And I always say when I get asked advice, like, how do you build a circle of friends? I said, you have to be vocal. Don't be ashamed. People go through divorce every single day.
Every
Up to
single day.
50% of all first marriages are going to end in a divorce.
Uh-huh.
I said, so, there are a lot of people out there. And even if they're not in your town, people in your town may say, it's funny. I have a brother, I have a sister who's going through it. My college roommate, they live right by. Let me like
Mhm.
connect you guys. So you don't know who knows who.
Right.
But don't be afraid to speak up. Everybody in this world has been touched by it some way. Could be they were
Exactly.
the product of a divorce, their
Mhm.
sibling, their boss, their best friend, they themselves, their nanny, somebody. Everybody knows somebody. Now you want them to put you in touch with all those somebodies so you can start meeting people, getting out of the house. Don't wallow and sit on the couch. That doesn't work. Um,
Right. Right.
you
And
know, get involved, be active. And it's like, listen, I know money is tight when you're going through a divorce, but there's so many things you can do that don't even cost anything. I mean, here in New York, where I am, the weather's nice now. There's a lot of places you can go on walking trails. They have a lot of places, even if you like biking, there are parks that you can just even meet, bring coffee, and just grab a blanket and just sit and get to know somebody that you maybe just want to build a friendship with. All these things don't necessarily have to cost money, but it gets you up, it gets you out, and it gets you, again, getting involved with people.
mhm. And the in the heroine's journey process, in fact, next this Wednesday and regularly, I teach a free webinar that's women and money, and it's the heroine's way. So if you go to heroinesbook.com/free dash webinar, that's heroinesbook.com/free dash webinar.com. You'll find out when the next one is, because that is a real problem, the money issue, and that can instill panic. And so I try to do some work around that so that, because I think the whole idea is to keep yourself as unpanicked as possible. And that's what you're talking about. You're talking about getting involved with groups. One of the big pieces for me was to surround myself with what I called my circle of love. People who remember that I was human, that I was hurting, that I needed someone to reach out and remind me that I was worthy. And that's a really important part of the whole piece of it.
It is. And the other thing is that what I love you said is to get educated about the money aspect of it, because now with a divorce you are going to be doing this alone, and you will be required to probably take on a lot more responsibility than you might have last time, and to get
Mhm.
educated. And there are so many amazing, wonderful, even free resources where you can learn about all this stuff, and you can do it.
Mhm.
And that's what I try to tell people. I tell my kids all the time, the word cannot is not anywhere in your vocabulary. Just take it out. Just take it out. That word does not exist. You have to you have to try. You don't have to be the best at it, but you do have to try. And you may have to try a few different times. You may have to reach out to get somebody to kind of help you. And there's so many wonderful experts who work in this space who can help you, who specialize in all different areas. And so, you're not alone,
And you know
even
what
even with
I,
this aspect of it.
I love chat. I know it's got its upsides and its downsides, but you can even type into chat, how do I go find a pickleball game?
Yeah.
You know, or where do I begin to start this? Um,
Social media is a great, I'll tell you something, and this is something we talk a lot about on the divorce hour, is sometimes social media can really work to your benefit. So we talk about the importance of staying off it while you're going through a divorce, and not to
Absolutely.
badmouth,
Uh-huh.
anybody, or you don't want to be looking like you're out with your friends partying, drunk. I mean, that's not going to work to your advantage either. But that's the negative side. But the pro is that a lot of these social media platforms, such as I'll use two that a lot of that people use a lot of, Facebook and Instagram, even TikTok. You can type in, like pickleball near me. You can even do it with Google. You can like look for meetup groups. There are so many of these things posted on social media, and they are wonderful resources that you can find. a local walking group, a local pickleball group. People do kayaking or boating. I
Yeah.
mean, there are so many things that people are doing, even with fitness, if you even just kind of want to like make it a little bit more global. And there are so many different things right in your own backyard. And
So how would you characterize your life now? Tell me what your biggest learning was, and obviously you are passionate about teaching this and helping women to get through it all. You know, tell me about your life now. What's the transition been and what's your biggest learning been?
I mean, it's a huge transition, financially, a huge trend mentally and emotionally. I
Yeah.
have probably more responsibility every day than most people carry, and I think a year. Um,
Uh-huh.
yeah, my life is completely changed. It's very different than the life I knew back then. I moved my job to home.
Uh-huh.
This was partly because of the pandemic, but also I'm a completely solo parent, so it's very important for me to be present
Uh-huh.
for my children. And so that became very different because I've always been in an office environment.
Mhm. And
So
how do you feel mentally now? Do you feel acceptance for yourself? Do you feel you gained new ways that support your emotional well-being? Do you feel like in the heroine's journey work we talk about it's kind of going from victim, because I've certainly felt victimized in divorce.
mhm.
And these skills that I've learned, I call it heroining up. But now when I encounter something, I say to myself very quickly, I'm a heroine. It would be kind of like your New Yorker response of "Don't mess with me." I'm a heroine. I've got this. I may not have it fixed yet, but I'm going to support myself emotionally and physically and all the things that can help me to move towards what I'm. So, are you in that stage now where you have the new resources, where you're more more in your own skin, more confident about who you are?
I think I'm very proud of what I've accomplished, what I've overcome. And because I think somebody I knew who was kind of intimately involved with my case and kind of saw everything what I was going through said, I don't know anybody that would have made it off home plate and over to first base with what you were up against, and yet you ran the bases, and look at you now. I one thing I laugh at is I laugh at some of these other people who are like, "Oh my God, there's so much going on. I need to get my husband, my wife, and this," and they're all like, and they're trying to figure it all out. And I sit back and I say to myself, I do it all by myself. Walk a day in my shoes. I do it, and I do it just as good, if not better, than all of you. And I keep that to myself, but I'm proud of myself when I realize that I can do multiple jobs.
Mhm.
Maybe not to like this kind of level, but I'm doing it way above average, and I'm still like hitting all my marks.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And it's essential that you're proud of yourself, because being
you
proud,
have to be proud of yourself.
it shows you how far you've come, and that, and there's more to go. You have to be proud of yourself. And that's part of, I mean, it gives me goosebumps to hear you say that, because that's your fuel.
You have to, yes, and that always has to be your fuel. You have to keep going.
Mhm.
There are no other options. I mean, there are, but I mean, like one thing I say all the time is is that, in life you have two options. My suggestion, take the better of the two. And my kids would be like, "What do you mean you only have two options?" And I said, "Well, one, you can like, stay in bed and cry and
Mhm.
let the world get the best of you, or you can kick the covers off, 2 feet on the ground, and, go conquer the day." And so I choose to every day, I look to conquer the day. And when I'm writing those notes I was telling you about, the little
Mhm.
affirmations for my kids, I myself say those words out loud.
Yeah.
And it's really, and then I study what it is
Mhm.
that I wrote. I just don't write it and like stick it in lunch. It's like I really actually study it. Some people, and these are suggestions that have come to us through a lot of mental health experts that we've interviewed, but take a thing of Post-it notes and write words or phrases and stick them on places that you know you frequent a lot. So it could be the bathroom mirror, it could be the refrigerator door, it could be, the door to your closet, but a place that you know that you are actually going to see them. And when you see them, study them and say those words out loud. Another trick that I've told people is put your fingers over your ears and then say it, because you'll actually hear yourself say those words.
Yeah.
And it seems to like get ingrained in your brain a lot more.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what you want to do. You have to remember that you have to remember who you are.
Because
Kind of like what
this is driving us all the time, and you got to pay attention to what this is saying,
you
and put
do,
that
and
good
you
stuff in there.
can't let every little setback, um, you know, you
Affect
just can't
you.
get upset by every little setback, because you know what? If that was the case, then you know what? Everybody would be defeated, and I don't know what people would do. You gotta keep going,
Mhm.
and you just can't. It's okay. It's like, you feel like you've taken 5 steps forward, something happens, and you're like, oh, I just took 3 steps back. That's okay.
That's okay.
Again, take that moment, gain your composure, get your footing, and then keep walking.
And
You may,
put good things in your head so you can.
yeah. And even though, like, you're like, but wait, I just took 5 steps forward. That 3 steps back, I go, it doesn't matter. You're still 2 steps ahead.
Yeah.
I said, and that's what you need to focus on. You need to kind of pull the positives out of everything. And I know it's hard to do, and I know we all get down sometimes, but you really have to.
Yeah.
And it really, it really does work to your benefit. And listen, I've interviewed, I don't even know how many celebrities. I mean, they've all overcome challenges, and some have gone through divorces, the loss of children, losing a career, overcoming substance abuse, but everybody's overcome something. But it was the determination to work past it and get through it. So when they do have something to celebrate, the win tastes that much sweeter. And that's what everybody has to remember.
Yeah.
And every day you can have a win,
Uh-huh.
but it's a question of, like, really keeping yourself focused to get there. And listen, I say every day, I'm like, every day I have a new set of challenges. I wake up and there they all are.
Yeah.
My thing is, and I told you this before, I'm New Yorker. So, I don't go down easy. I may not get through all of them today, but I
Yeah.
can tell you that they
That's
will not
you.
knock me out.
Yeah. Alyssa, it's been so delightful. I just
You as
enjoy
well.
your company so much. Your energy is terrific. Your spirit is great. We've just had fun together, and we're going to have more fun together.
I look
Please tell
forward to that.
people where they can find you.
You can log on to my website, which is elissapanitz.com. Just my first and last name.com. Our show, The Divorce Hour, airs every Saturday and Sunday on CRN Digital Talk Radio Network. You can also find it as a podcast. Ways Through Divorce, the TV show, airs on your home TV. All downloads are free. It doesn't cost a thing. And my columns run everywhere, from Scary Mommy, New York Styles Life magazine, Women's World, First for Women. I have a new one in Flow Space. So check everything I'm working on
Thank
out.
you so much. And for all of you listening, join us next as we do another wonderful conversation. Please learn about the Heroine's Journey. It will be your path forward. To do that, you can go to heroinesbook.com and get your free plus shipping copy of the book. It's got my heart and my soul in it, and I send it to you with a big kiss. Come join us again, and thank you. Have a great day.
That was so much fun.